Fantasy football season starting soon in the upcoming weeks and fantasy drafts for fantasy owners. Here's a few mock drafts I did using the Hero RB strategy, drafting one running back in the first 7 rounds, and then after that, going for your second running back and on. So the first mock draft I did, first pick overall, Christian McCaffrey. Obviously, I went with he's my number one player on the board easily this season after the numbers he's put up over the last couple of years with the San Francisco 49ers. Then second round, I went Drake London. I believe London could have a good season with Kirk Cousins, Chris Olave in those back-to-back picks on the turn. Then Stephon Diggs. I rounded out my receiving core pretty quick in this league. London at receiver, one Olave receiver, and Diggs at the flex. Most leagues I do play 3 receivers and flex option. Yahoo Sports don't have the option, and it's 2 receivers, 2 backs, and a flex. Then the 5th round, I went with CJ Stroud. So I got the Diggs and Stroud double up combination, which is always a good strategy as well to have in fantasy football. If you have a quarterback and one of his wide receivers to get double the points if they hit on a touchdown or big yard gains. Then the 6th round, I got Evan Ingram. Evan Ingram, a monster year last year, over 100 catches, which you don't see a lot from the tight end position. So I like him in that 6th spot. 7, Tony Pollard. I got then as my second running back. I think Pollard, he's not a great running back. Obviously, last year didn't do much as the man over there with the Dallas Cowboys, and most likely a 50-50 split with Tajay Spears. But hey, to get a guy who was in the second, late first round last year in fantasy drafts to fall to the 7th this year after a down year is my number 2 back. I guess things could be worse. Then in the 8th round, I went with Austin Eckler. Austin Eckler was a down year for him last season where he was a first-round pick, and now he's going 8th to 10th round range in most fantasy drafts. I think it's decent value as a backup to get Eckler, but him and Brian Robinson as well, most likely going to be in a 50-50 split. Then 9th round, Deontay Johnson fell. And I've been seeing this a little bit more doing these mocks, that Deontay Johnson is falling in these drafts. I know he's on a team where they're not going to move the football a whole lot, but a lot of garbage time. And for Johnson to be my 4th receiver, I think it's a good depth piece at the back end. Then I went receiver once again, Jordan Addison. I know he's banged up a little bit, but Addison showed good flashes last season as a rookie, even though I know Sam Darnold is quarterback now. But as my 5th wide receiver, I think it's fine for Jordan Addison, and possibly he could surprise people this season. Then once again, receiver in the 11th round, Curtis Samuel. Him and Keon Coleman, I believe, all season long they'll be battling it out for that number 1 receiver on Buffalo. And we know Josh Allen spreads the football out anyway, so to have Curtis Samuel as my 6th wide receiver, I think is good value, especially in the 11th round. Then I closed out with Rico Dotto in the 12th round, which I think is great value. And I've been getting Dotto a lot in that 10th to 12th round range, where I believe he could be the starting running back, get majority of the touches in the backfield for the Cowboys. I just believe the best days are behind Ezekiel Elliott. And then I closed out with J.K. Dobbins in the 13th round, where there's an opportunity for Dobbins as well. I know Gus Edwards is there, but he's not going to be the every down back. And Dobbins, I know he's coming off some major injuries with the Achilles and an ACL over the last few seasons, but I think he could bounce back, and he's always had talent. It's just been injuries have held him back, but to take him is the last pick as a bench player, I'm fine with. And then Minnesota and Dustin Hopkins to close out. So the final roster: CJ Stroud, Drake London, Chris Olave, CMC, Tony Pollard, Evan Ingram, Stephon Diggs, Dustin Hopkins, Minnesota's DST. The bench: Austin Eckler, Deontay Johnson, Jordan Addison, Curtis Samuel, Rico Dotto, J.K. Dobbins. So with this Hero RB strategy, obviously Christian McCaffrey that first round, and I didn't come back to the 8th round to get Tony Pollard's draft. So right now, I think it's a decent roster I assembled here, especially the receiver position. I believe I'm pretty strong. And CJ Stroud, I like him a lot this season. I think he could be a top 5 quarterback for fantasy owners. Last season was only his rookie year, and he was already one of the more efficient and better quarterbacks in the league. So this mock draft, I like a lot with that first pick, and I think I put a pretty solid team to get. Next mock draft was 6th pick overall. I went with Amon-Ra St. Brown. I know I'm a little higher than most people on St. Brown, but I think he's going to have another monster season. He's a PPR machine. Him and Goff have good rapport, and he's one of the best route runners and best receivers in the league. So I'm comfortable this season taking St. Brown in that 5th to 8th round range overall. Then I went to Von Achane. I think he really fell in this draft to the late 2nd round. I think Achane has potential this season to be a top 5 running back with the explosiveness, the offense he's on, and the way Mike McDaniel uses speed like Achane in his offense. This guy averaged 8 yards per carry last season, so to get him in the mid to late 2nd round is a home run pick. Then Sam Laporta, he fell a little bit in this one. 3rd round, Laporta last year, what a monster rookie year was. I know I got 2 Lions on my roster in this one, but I think Sam Laporta could have another good season. I'm not saying he's going to put up the numbers like he did last year, but it's tight between Travis Kelce, Laporta, Mark Andrews, and Trey McBride. Any one of those tight ends could be the number 1 option, but I went with a different route in this draft because I don't really get the tight end early, and I went with Laporta. Then 4th round, Patrick Mahomes. That's a great pick, especially at the 4-7 mark, to get Patrick Mahomes in that mid-4th round, where I think it could be a bounce-back season for Mahomes. The weapons got better from last year to this year. They added Hollywood Brown, even though I know he's out 4 to 6 weeks. Added Xavier Worthy, Rashee Rice. It looks like he's not going to get suspended, and he's going to have another year under his belt in this offense. Pacheco, one of the solid running backs in the league as well, and obviously Travis Kelce. So this offense, it looks good. Mahomes, I think, is going to bounce back. In terms of putting up numbers, obviously he just came off a Super Bowl, but to get him in the 4th round's a steal. Tank Dell in the 5th, great pick. Tank Dell, I know he's the 3rd receiver over there in Houston, but him and Stroud had a great rapport, and if he didn't get hurt, Tank Dell, he possibly could have been a top 15 wide receiver last season in fantasy drafts. T. Higgins, I think Higgins, he's underrated this season. I know last year was a train wreck overall for the Cincinnati Bengals, but to get T. Higgins in the 6th round as your 3rd receiver or flex option, I think is great value, because we know T. Higgins coming a couple years ago was one of the better wide receivers in the league, and he had a top 15 finish as well as T. Higgins. So now on the 1-year deal with T. Higgins and franchise tag, I think this season he comes out with a monster year, and he wants that long-term deal, and who don't? So if he stays healthy and Burrow's healthy, I think we see another great year from T. Higgins. Terry McLaurin to sit there in the 7th round and really build up my wide receiver depth. Terry McLaurin, I know he's not on the greatest of offenses, but he puts up those numbers as Terry McLaurin. Every year it seems like 1,000 yards. I know some games he's quiet, not 100% his fault, but some games he pops off and has a big one. And to have Terry McLaurin as my 4th wide receiver, I think is great value. Then I went back to the running back and went 3 out of 4 picks with the running back position. Jaylen Warren to become my number 2 running back. I think I could do far worse. Warren, there's definitely a possibility he could take over for Najee Harris this season, where last year he was eating into the workload. He's a better pass catcher out of the backfield, better burst, I think, Jaylen Warren. And now he just has to have that workhorse mentality, I believe, where Warren really could get maybe 65-70% of the touches as the year goes on. Then Tajay Spears falling in the 9th round's great value. Him and Tony Pollard, I like them in this videos of guys that could fill in as that number 3 running back or even a number 2 running back, where Tajay Spears is a good PPR play. Is Tajay Spears over 40 catches last year, and if he ate into Derrick Henry's workload, I believe this is a 50-50 split, or Spears could even take over more touches in that backfield. Then 10th round to get Xavier Worthy is definitely a steal, and this is what you want to look for in the late rounds. These young up-and-coming rookies or second-year players who still didn't break out and have potential to skyrocket and put up a big season. So Worthy in the 10th. 11th round, Zach Charbonnet, I'm still a fan of his, even though last year I thought we're going to see more out of him. But a Kenneth Walker injury or poor performance, I think Zach Charbonnet could step right in and get a good workload. Because remember, Pete Carroll's gone, whole new coaching staff, offensive coordinator, obviously. So Charbonnet, I still believe, has a chance. 12th round, Brian Thomas is a steal as well. He's most likely going to be starting, I believe, for this Jacksonville Jaguar team. And we saw in the preseason game that he was lined up in the starting spot on the opposite side of Gabe Davis on the outside, with Christian Kirk in the slot and Davis and Thomas playing most of the snaps with the first team. So I like him as a late round flyer and someone who could have a good year. And I closed it out with Chuba Hubbard. It's my bench running back. So Miles Sanders, he might be banged up. We know Jonathan Brooks, he's out 3 to 4 weeks. So Chuba Hubbard by default might be the starting running back once again week 1. And to get a starting running back in the 13th round, I think is great value. And then close it out with Jason Myers and the New England Patriots DST. So the final roster with the 6th pick: Patrick Mahomes, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Tank Dell, Devon Achane, Jalen Warren, Sam Laporta, T. Higgins, Myers, New England's DST. Then the bench, Terry McLaurin, Tajay Spears, Xavier Worthy, Zach Charbonnet, Brian Thomas, Chuba Hubbard. So I think it's a well-balanced roster. I know some people might not like that Tank Dell's my number 2 wide receiver, but remember I went Sam Laporta in that 3rd round, and I believe he could have a monster year once again as Laporta. So I got a big chunk of that Lion offense with St. Brown and Laporta. Achane, I think he's going to be a monster running back once again this season. And I think the depth is good with Spears, Zach Charbonnet, and Chuba Hubbard at the running back. And then my receiver position's pretty loaded, and to have McLaurin and Worthy and Brian Thomas as backups as well. I think it's a well-rounded team. And I got many options for the flex option, and even at running back, God forbid someone went down with injury. So with the 6th pick, that was the hero RB strategy. And now to the final mock I did with the hero RB strategy, and it was the 12th pick overall. My 12th pick, I took Jahmyr Gibbs. I think he's a solid pick at the back end of the 1st round. I know he's banged up a little bit with the ankle injury, but he should be ready for week 1. And he's a high upside running back, no doubt about it, catching the football, having that burst away speed, and finding the big lanes and the end zone, even with David Montgomery there. 2nd round, next pick, Puka Nacua. He's banged up as well, but Puka Nacua took the league by storm last season. And I believe once again Puka Nacua could go out there and have a monster year for this Los Angeles Ram team and for fantasy owners. And to get him in the back end and early 2nd round, I think is great value. Malik Neighbors, I got him at the end of the 3rd round, the last pick. Malik Neighbors, he's pretty much the only big-time threat on that New York Giant offense. And with Saquon Barkley obviously leaving in free agency, going to the Philadelphia Eagles, I think Malik Neighbors is going to get force-fed with targets. He's an athletic player, and if he was drafted to a better situation, he'd be even higher, I believe, in fantasy drafts. Right now, he's going in that 3rd to 5th round range. But like I said, I got him in the back last pick of the 3rd round, 4th round, Josh Allen, for an elite quarterback to be there. And I've said this a lot in my videos. If it's Allen, Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes available in the 4th round, you got to go out there and get those quarterbacks, because to get an elite quarterback in the 4th round where you already got a couple receivers or a couple running backs under your belt on your team, I think it's solid to get one of those quarterbacks if they fall in the 4th. I'm not going to reach for them in the 3rd round, but the 4th round, I definitely would take a shot on one of those quarterbacks. 5th round, I got his teammate Dalton Kincaid. Kincaid this season as a tight end that definitely could put up numbers, and he could be the number 1 target on the Bill offense with Stephon Diggs traded off to the Houston Texans, Gabe Davis leaving in free agency, going to the Jacksonville Jaguars, and now a lot of unknowns in that receiver room with Keon Coleman, rookie. He's pretty much been a 3rd or 4th receiver throughout his career, and Curtis Samuel's never been a number 1 guy who they signed in free agency. So Kincaid, like I said, could be a number 1 target in the passing game, and to get him in the last pick of the 5th round, I believe is good value. Keenan Allen, 6th round. A lot of drafts, Keenan Allen just keeps falling and falling. I know Keenan Allen, he's come in 20 pounds heavier in the offseason, but I believe Keenan Allen still could go out there and make plays. Last year, he was 3rd in points per game at the wide receiver position in PPR league. So people writing Keenan Allen off. I know he's in an offense with more weapons. DJ Moore, Cole Kmet, DeAndre Swift, but I still believe Keenan Allen could be a valuable asset, and to have him as your 3rd receiver or flex option in fantasy leagues is great value. Then I went to receiver once again in the 7th with Chris Godwin. Godwin, I know it wasn't a monster year for him, but he still had 83 catches and over 1,000 yards. The problem was he didn't find the end zone a lot with Chris Godwin, but I believe this season the numbers will go up a little bit and he'll play more in the slot once again. Tony Pollard, I got once again in this draft, and he's fallen that 7th, 8th round range, where last season he was a borderline 1st rounder and on a bust type of year in terms of living up to being a 1st rounder. But Tony Pollard, if I could get him in the 7th, 8th round as a number 2 running back like I did on this roster to go with Jahmyr Gibbs, I still think that's a solid duo over there. And I know him and Tajay Spears most likely splitting 50-50, but Tony Pollard, he'll have his games at times, and I think he's in the right spot as a number 2 running back, or low 2 at worst case. Back once again, Javonte Williams in the 9th round. He's still going to be the starter. He's not going to be released, where there were reports earlier in the offseason that Javonte Williams could get released, but he's the bell cow over there. I know Perine and Jaleel McLaughlin, they'll get some touches as well, but I believe it's still Javonte's backfield, and he wasn't that bad last year. And remember as well, he's only 1 year removed from ACL surgery. Next pick, number 10, Jaden Reed. Jaden Reed, he really fell in this draft. I know this Packer offense is most likely going to be a committee at the wide receiver position, where they got a lot of talent. Christian Watson, but he has to stay healthy. Romeo Doubs, he's been up and down through the first few years of his NFL career. And then Tavian Wicks, he showed up late in the year. But Reed, 10 touchdowns last season, definitely has good upside and a good rapport with Jordan Love. And to get him in the 10th round, I think is good value. Jameson Williams, people been waiting on him for many seasons, but it's always injury, or last year suspended the first few games of the season. But to get Jameson Williams as a guy who could potentially break out, last pick of the 11th round, you might as well take a flyer and see what he could do. Then 12th round, Zach Charbonnet. I know Charbonnet last season, people had hopes that he could eat into Walker's workload, but that didn't really happen. But like I've said in other videos, I think Charbonnet is a great talent, no doubt about it. He could catch the football out of the backfield. He could be a 3-down back if you need him to be. And he's just a Kenneth Walker injury away, or Kenneth Walker underperforming, to being a top 15-20 running back option if he gets the job. And then I close it out with Bucky Irving, where Irving, not a highly touted prospect at the running back position coming out this season in the NFL draft, but he's going to be the number 2 running back over there. Chase Edmonds, I think his best days are behind him. And Irvin, he could be someone in between the tackles, because remember Rachaad White last season, he wasn't good at all in terms of yards per carry, but obviously one of the better receiving backs in the league was Rachaad White. But with a new offensive coordinator and obviously a new system they're going to run over there in Tampa Bay, I think Bucky Irving is a lottery ticket type of pick and a flyer for someone late in the draft. As a young guy, there could be an opportunity for Bucky Irving. So the final roster of Josh Allen, Puka Nacua, Malik Nabers, Jahmyr Gibbs, Tony Pollard, Dalton Kincaid, Keenan Allen, Evan McPherson, Chris Godwin, Indianapolis defense, Javonte Williams, Jaden Reed, Jameson Williams, Zach Charbonnet, Bucky Irving. I think this one RB roster to the 7th round worked out. I got my 3 wide receivers. I got the stud running back in Jahmyr Gibbs in the 1st round. Dalton Kincaid, a solid tight end. To get Josh Allen in the 4th round definitely was a steal. And then I think my bench, I built it out pretty well. Chris Godwin has good potential this season. Javonte Williams, he's been underrated a little bit in these drafts. And he didn't have a horrible season, I thought. I know it's going to be a tough season this year in Denver with a young quarterback and not many good receivers on the roster. But I think Williams still could be a decent bench piece or borderline 2 running back. Jaden Reed, I think I got him as a steal in those later rounds. He had a good season last year and broke out. Jameson Williams, he's a project. But like I said, I think he could have a good year if he stays healthy and keeps focused. Zach Charbonnet took a flyer on, because like I said, if Walker goes down, Charbonnet is one of the better handcuffs in all fantasy football. And I still think he's going to get 8-10 touches per game. And then Bucky Irving, another guy who I think has Bucky Irving as another bench running back. So for your bench, you really want to get young guys with some veterans who've had decent careers and decent seasons. And this is how you want to build the team. So I think with this running back early, and then you wait till the 7th, 8th round to get your second running back, isn't the worst of strategies. I think it's a better strategy than the 0 RB build that I had in the last video that I came out with. So I think this is a decent strategy. You get your running back early in the first 2 or 3 rounds, and then you go to work, get the receiver and quarterback position, tight end. You fill out the roster, and then you just keep hitting running backs in that 8th to 10th round range, where you hope one of those guys can emerge as a number 2 running back, or even emerge as a top end running back if they really have a breakout season. So that's our RB strategy, and we'll see if I'll use it during the season, and if fantasy owners will use it. Enter in the 2024 season.